Well, here's our tale of woe about our front suspension on our V8 944 here. This has turned into a little bit more complicated operation than we originally planned. The original plan was to replace these original 1991 kind of wore out strut top bushings and bearings with these ground control, nice adjustable camber and caster plates. And because of the way this plate is here, it doesn't really fit in the stock round hole. So I'm going to call them up today and we're going to figure out what we're supposed to do about that. But the main reason I was replacing this was I thought that we had a front steering suspension clunk that was due to these old bushings. But unfortunately, that is not what was causing it. If you remember back a few years ago when we did the front suspension on this car, I had got a good used set of Koni yellow sport shocks. And at the time they were in good condition. But as old things do, they kind of wore out. So let's see if we can get this on camera. Don't look at the spring, because the spring is, get the spring out of the way here. If you look between the shock shaft and the body, that is where our play is. So if you know anything about 944 front suspension, the struts are a little bit of a conundrum, because people don't make direct replacements. I mean, the Konis were a direct replacement, you know, back in the 80s. Like, I think the date code on these is 1989. So anyway, we're back to the conundrum of trying to figure out what struts to put on the front of this thing. And being that we have our suspension pretty well sorted with spring rates and damping rates and stuff and sway bar, I don't really want to convert it to something else. But even though these Koni yellows look like you can take them apart, they don't make the insert for them anymore. So we are going to have to find something else to put on the front of this thing. That's today's conundrum. All right, our crisis has been averted. Spent a couple hours online looking for stuff. Found a whole bunch of expensive options. And then I talked to a bunch of manufacturers on the phone and found out a couple things. I talked to Scott at Renegade Hybrids, and he said that these shocks should be rebuildable. And so I found 944 online, which is down in Florida, and talked to them. And they can rebuild them, or they can sell the insert, which requires cutting the shock off for these shocks, because these are old, and doing some stuff. But he also said that he actually gets a limited number of new shocks that are a direct replacement for this. The only real question is, it's a different shock with probably a slightly different body, so we don't know if my ride height adjuster sleeve for this cheapy coilover conversion will fit or not. But, you know, $800 solution, and For that kind of price, I don't mind if I have to switch out the springs, because springs aren't real expensive. So I ordered them. They're basically the same thing. They're a, adjustable Koni Sport Yellow shock. So they should be here next week sometime, and then we'll know if we got to change anything. I'm thinking, he didn't seem to think that it would fit the spring, the 2.5-inch spring. They're meant for a 2.25-inch spring, I guess. But if that sleeve fits over the strut body, or the shock body, then that will be the spring perch, and we'll be in good shape. All right. Whew. That's kind of a weird way to solve the problem, but it'll work. And it is definitely at $800 for the pair. It is definitely one of the cheapest options. The only thing that would be cheaper, but would take a lot more time, would be to rebuild these. All right. Get back to you when we have some shocks to stick on it.